Hi everyone, this is Anna. Thank you for clicking on to my YouTube channel, Anna's Take with the Twist. In this video, we are going to talk about Vladimir, the limited TV series created for TV and executive produced by May Jonas. Her debut novel, titled Vladimir, is the source material for limited series. Limited meaning it is one season, and in this case it has 8 episodes. All 8 episodes are available on Netflix right now, and each episode is about 30 minutes long for a total running time of about 4 hours. That is a little bit longer than a long movie and makes it perfect for binging, which is exactly what I did the second time that I watched it. So I might as well tell you right now, I love the series more than the book. I know that rarely happens, however, that's true. We're also going to talk about some of the things I mentioned in my last video titled, Will the Book Vladimir by May Jonas be Netflix's next huge TV series? So I'll leave a link for that in the description box below. There's a lot of great information in this video, so please watch it to the end. If at any point you like today's video, please like the video. Of course, you can always leave a comment, and of course, you can always subscribe. So in my last video, I said that I thought there's going to be lots of food and alcohol in the TV series, and there is. There were drone shots of 2 of the main locations. Since one of the main locations is rural upstate New York, those drone shots were over treetops and the lake. The other location was actually the cottage. So the drone shots of the cottage are, well, let's face it, I mean, this is all filmed in Northern Ontario, so all the drone shots are amazing. But I would have to say that the drone shots around the cottage are my favorite. That property is absolutely gorgeous. So given that Vladimir is produced and distributed by Netflix, I'm not surprised by all the beautiful locations, amazing sets, and of course the amazing wardrobe. Now, streaming services generally have more money, so their shows have a higher production value. Streaming services also don't have any of the network restrictions that other TV shows do. So there was sexual content, not in the realm of 9.5 Weeks, like I was kind of got the impression of from one of the trailers with the fruit, and they also did have some foul language. So our unnamed protagonist in the book, Vladimir, now named M for the TV series, drops a lot of F-bombs in this one scene. So if you read the book, and I highly recommend that you do, I'm going to leave a link for the book Vladimir in the description box below for anyone who still wants to purchase the book. Then you would know that that scene, the one with all the F-bombs, refers to page 54, where M tells us that her husband John is a sex addict. And she also tells us that she knew that John was a sex addict before they got married, hence their open marriage. So M is played by the beautiful Rachel Weisz, multi-talented, and John is played by John Slattery, who is also multi-talented and, let's face it, not sore on the eyes. Their on-screen daughter for the series is Sydney, or Sid for short, and she is played by Ellen Robertson, which I've never seen Ellen Robertson. She is really good in this series. I really liked it. So her character actually has a lot of sex on the page and on the screen that we hear about. And Sydney is a lawyer in the book and also in the TV series, that she has more of a role as a lawyer. So I'm really impressed by that. Now, in the book, the author May Jonas, who adapted her debut novel, Vladimir, for the TV series, breaks the fourth wall. She does this on page 232. So M, our main character in the TV series, does that also, and I like that for several reasons. One is that, you know, in the book, we are in our main character's head so much that, you know, her speaking directly to us, the audience, actually would have to happen, because it only makes sense, because like I said, we are in our head a lot. And there are some scenes where, you know, M does do some narrating, yet she can only narrate so much. So another reason I like M breaking the fourth wall is that we can see M in motion, so, you know, acting. Meaning that we know that M, played by Rachel Weisz, went to a location, that she was processed, meaning she had her hair, makeup, and her wardrobe done. You know, she is on a set, she knows her lines and she knows her movements, and some movements meaning like her actions, so her movements, walking, and her facial expressions, right? So she's not sitting in a recording booth / recording studio wearing her own clothes in between errands of, you know, hand delivering honey and towels. Also, by breaking the fourth wall, production is keeping a lot of people employed, and that's important for a lot of different reasons. Now, something else that is important is when actors break the fourth wall, they are directly connecting with the audience. So as an audience, we are no longer the passive fly on the wall, casually observing what's happening. We now have more of like an active role, right? And the character in this case, M, is now increasing her intimacy and her companionship, which breaks down any walls of isolation or loneliness that we may have. And that is important because as a global society, we have been in a loneliness epidemic for decades. Now, I mentioned this, or I actually discussed this in my one video titled "Why Are Older TV Shows Making a Comeback?" So I'll leave a link for that in the description box below because it does talk about loneliness, and I do recommend a book that I read a number of years ago. So in my opinion, the series needed to break the fourth wall for the story because, as I mentioned earlier, M does do some narrating. She can only narrate so much, and then at the same time things would just get lost in translation, like because we're not going to see M's facial expressions or her movements of like when she shrugs her shoulders, or we're not going to have the same effect of her one-liners, right? And so, like I said, things would just get lost in translation. So last thing I thought that we would see is animals for comic relief. So the series does have animals, deer actually, and whoever thought of deer is incredibly brilliant for so many reasons. For one, deer are usually found in more rural areas, so now they are showing us in pictures that once again our main characters are in rural upstate New York. Deer, because they are considered to be like more peaceful, timid, shy animals, would only come out, or be in an area where they felt safe and peaceful. Okay, so there is that. And at the same time, deer are larger than raccoons or rabbits, so now they take up more room on the screen. Now production doesn't need to fill that space with a person or an object. But the real reason, or the main reason I think this is brilliant, is because now deer are part of the storyline. And they're part of the storyline because now Em and John talk about the deer netting for John's lettuce garden. Some people save the cat, John gets a lettuce garden. Now we see John in totally different light. People who garden are considered to be, calm, caring, nurturing, also very, very patient individuals who are providers, right? So John does actually provide lettuce from his lettuce garden while he's being suspended from his place of work because he's being investigated for having sexual relations with his former students. So rather than seeing the cold, distant, and in my opinion, at times quite hostile marriage between Em and John. Like honestly, I wrote on the top of page 88, does she hate men? Because it just really seemed like Em does not like men. Now we see Em and John, in this caring, loving, and respectful civil relationship. Right? And that was a 180 from the book, which was really, really nice change. So Vladimir is played by Leo Woodall, and I think he looks amazing with his facial hair. I love it. I think he looks far more professional, and I think he looks older. He looks more professor-like, in my opinion, with his facial hair. Now, Vladimir has a few choice words about his on-screen wife, Cynthia. She is played by Jessica Henwick. Now, unlike the book, we can see and hear the cracks in their relationship quickly becoming craters. So I thought that was just really kind of interesting. Now, another difference is how Em and Cynthia bond over one of Cynthia's bright ideas. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. I will say that Em has some bright ideas, what I call bright ideas of her own. Like, she drops things, she misplaces things. At the time, she steals a lot of things too, by the way. One day she's stealing an unopened bottle of wine. The next day she's stealing face cream, face serum, and prescription medication. And my favorite actually is when she decided to steal Cynthia's paycheck because she wanted to know where Vladimir and Cynthia live. So I thought that was kind of interesting. As for anyone who doesn't know, every paycheck has a name and a full mailing address. So where the person lives, their postal code, that kind of thing. So just for the record, I have a real problem with people stealing. And every few months, I cannot make this up, I have a problem with background payroll. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. So my favorite background payroll story is actually from August of 2022, when background payroll sent my paycheck to another background agent, and what happened after that. Okay, so before we go there, here's something from Female Sarcasm. Am I talking bad about you, or is what you did bad and I'm talking about it? Is what I'm saying wrong, or what you did wrong and I'm just saying it? Facts aren't attacks. So years ago, anyone who wasn't union would fill out their paperwork with their name and all of their agent's information. So the name of the agency, the agent's full mailing address, and the agent's phone number. Okay. Then production would go and they'd mail the check to the agent. The agent would contact the person, usually via email, like, hi, we have a check for you. This is how much the commission is. A lot of agents didn't take e-transfers and all that kind of stuff. So normally the background performer would have to go to the agent's office and hand them cash. And then after the agent got their commission, then they would hand the check over to the background performer. Now, that a lot of that has since changed, so that part's good. So instead of this background agent immediately calling production like, hi, we have a check for Anna and she's not on our roster. What would you like us to do? And just for the record, I would never be on that agent's roster for so many different reasons. Or that background agent immediately contacting, like, email or phoning my agent saying, hi, we have a check for Anna and we don't know what to do. This background agent and their accounting department, and I cannot make this up, gave my check to a guy and he went ahead and cashed it. And yes, I know that sounds like I'm the conductor of the crazy train, but please believe me, I have 3 emails. They're all dated for Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. So email number 1. Hi, Ramin. It's been brought to our attention that a check for Anna, and then of course my surname, from Name of Production, got sent to one of my performers. He attempted to deposit it without realizing it was not for him, and the check was naturally returned. The check amount is $45 and the date is August 8th, 2022. In case you need to chase payment from production for your performer, and then name of the accounting person from other background agent. Cannot make this up. So someone did actually cash that check. Production accused me of cashing the check. So when I said to them, I go, okay, look, like, it doesn't even make sense. Why would I do this to a check for $45 when that was for a fitting? When I went to work, you know, I worked like X number of hours and the check for that was like what, 4, 5, 6 times the amount of $45? Like, it doesn't make sense that I would do this for a $45 check. And then, I swear, I cannot make this up, I heard the light go off in background payroll's head. It was like, yes, that's right. Doesn't make sense. I think that kind of got them to like maybe start looking into the check. Anyway, so I don't know who is more unprofessional and incompetent. Is it background payroll for sending my check to another background agent? Is it that background agent and their accounting department for like not checking the name on the check and then just giving it willy-nilly to some guy? Is it the guy who just decided that, you know, he's just going to go and cash it without looking at it? If you didn't look at it, then that's dumb, because you should look at every check to make sure it's for you in the right amount and that's not expired, because it does expire after 6 months. Or was that just stupid, knowing that he knew exactly what he was doing and still went ahead to deposit the check, which, by the way, whether it's a dumb move on his part or stupid, it's fraud. So I'm just curious, like, whose name is on the back of that check? Was it his name, or did he forge my name on the back of the check? Email number 2. Thanks for letting us know, name of accounting person from other background agent. Anna has been waiting for that check for a long time. I'm looping her in so she knows the whereabouts of the check and so she can reach out to you guys and pick up the check. Best regards, Miguel, Administrative Coordinator, Toronto Films Extra, and their office phone number and their fax number and then their website address. Okay, so it's true. I was waiting for that check for a long time. In fact, I reached out to my background agent's accounting department to reach out to background payroll, and they did reach out to background payroll via email at least twice, possibly 3 times, and background payroll just never got back to them. And that's why I started calling. So here's email number 3. And this is actually just 2 minutes after my agent's accounting department emailed this agent. Nor we or our performer have the check. He disposed of all of them and then got confirmation from the bank that it had been returned. That is when he found out. He didn't even notice the first time. Let Anna know to reach out to production for reissue of the check. Name of accounting person for other background agent. So I'm just going to say this. I find the timing of everything to be very interesting because that production actually wrapped on Friday, December 9th, 2022. So, banks make a lot of money for a reason because they keep an eye on money. So did it really take the bank, let's face it, all the Canadian banks are making record profits. Did it really take the bank 4 months to sort out that check, was cashed by some guy and it was my check? That's 4 months. So I'm not buying any of anything for so many reasons, right? And this is why. So I have to read this verbatim. You see, I met that background agent years ago when they were an assistant to one of Toronto's busiest background agents. So I was on his roster from early 2010 until late 2015. So December 2015 or January 2016. So for years, that background agent, who was a former background assistant to a background agent, would call me on the phone, give me work, and then let me know that my check has arrived at their office, which was in a house. Then I would go to the house, I would pay my commission in cash, and then that background agent, former assistant to a background agent, would physically hand me a check. Here you go, Anna. Here's your check. So in all the years that I dealt with that background assistant, now background agent, I never had a problem until, and this is rather exacting, until somewhere between Monday, March 9th, 2015 and Monday, March 16th, 2015. Something shifted. I have a few theories. Anyway, they went from happy and upbeat to stone cold every time they saw me. And from then on, they were, in my opinion, hostile with me. So, in my opinion, I strongly believe that they knew exactly what they were doing the second they received my check. I'm rather certain that that background agent, with all of their experience and my experience with them, I am rather certain that they knew exactly what they were doing the second my check arrived. I'm just still so floored by that. So I'm also of the very strong belief and very strong opinion that they have been saying negative things about me that has affected my getting work on set. So, really, the shenanigans with my paycheck, I think I'm in my right to say that, in my opinion and in my experience, they have been saying things about me, and I can only imagine what they've been saying about me in the last 11 years. So look, the emails are here. I can't make this up. I'll be happy to forward them to anyone who's interested. I have been doing background on and off since 2009, so a lot of productions have my email address. A lot of background casting agents have my email address also. Casting directors, sorry. So I'd like to thank this person because you've really been quite helpful. I'm not going to tell you how, but I really should be buying you flowers sometime between March 9th and March 16th of every year. So thank you. Anyway, Emma and Cynthia tell us that they are not easily offended, yet they're easily offended. They show us that and tell us that all the time. Em deals with far more politics in the TV series than she ever did in the books. Politics with her other colleagues and also the students, and of course all the politics at home. So as an escape from all the politics, she and Vladimir have a very interesting conversation in her car that really starts to clarify some things. Like when I heard Vladimir say, at grad school, Cynthia basically had to hit me over the head with their frying pan. But that is not in the book. And that is basically saying that, Vladimir wasn't paying any attention to her. right? So now we flash forward to when Em and Vladimir are in the cottage and they're dancing. And Em says, how do you know how to do this? To which Vladimir says, I used to go to salsa club in Florida when I was 16. It was very formative. And then Em says, how? To which Vladimir says, I liked dancing with the 30-year-old women. Okay. So to me, that proved that he was never into women his age or younger. He's been into older women since he was 16 years old, right? So no wonder Cynthia had to hit him over the head with a frying pan to get his attention, because he wasn't interested in her. Anyway, she was also probably trying to insert herself into his life, or have Vladimir's friends and family insert her into his life. The rule of proximity, which then, of course, facilitates the mere exposure effect. Which is probably why the once small cracks in their relationship are quickly becoming craters, right? Okay. I don't doubt that Vladimir loves Cynthia because, let's face it, she is the mother of their only child. I don't think Vladimir is in love with Cynthia, okay? Which is also why, while at the cottage, Vladimir says to Em, I would like to meet you here once a week. Pause. Say you will. Pause. This is where Vladimir stands up and then he places his head in her hair, and it looks like he's going to kiss her on the top of the head, to which then Vladimir says, you inspire me. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. That was actually after they had sex, which to me seemed very, very transactional. I mean, if you watch a limited series, and I really hope that you do, then you know what I mean. And then, of course, there's also the scene where Em and John have sex for the first time. That seemed really transactional. And if you watch the series, again, I really hope that you do, then you'll know what I mean. When you get to the scene where John says to Em after they've had sex, John says, nice doing business with you. And then Em says, you too. And that's when they are, for lack of a better term, like adjusting themselves after they've had sex. Now, something that is in the TV series and not in the book at all is the character of Lila. So Lila is played by Kaylee Carter. Now, without giving too much away, without giving too much away, Lila is a former student of Em, and she had sexual relationship with John. So much more involved, so trust me. So since Em and John both work at Bard, which is the small liberal arts college, that makes sense. So when I was reading the book, I hadn't even thought of this at all, because I'm reading the book and I'm so caught up in, oh my God, our main character is doing what? Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, that kind of thing. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. And Bard, from what we can see from all the staff meetings, is like really, really small. I mean, they have like 8 professors, so a total of 8 to 12 professors and or adjuncts as like the staff members. So this whole Lila storyline is very important to the actual show itself, to the series, because it does a lot of different things. For one, it increases all the tension of between Em and her colleagues, Em and her students. It creates a lot more tension, and obviously politics too, at home between Em and John and Em and Sydney, because now Sydney is actually the lawyer for John as opposed to Wilhelmina, who is the lawyer in the book. So that's actually really important. Now, I like the Lila storyline also because it actually shows us how much Em and John really care and respect and love each other. It also shows us that they are in love with each other, and they would have to be in love with each other, because really, they've been married for 30 years. They've both worked at the same liberal arts college, Bard, for 30 years. For almost 20 of those 30 years that they've worked there, John has had sexual relations with some of his former students. And they're navigating everything of getting older and, being replaced, because that word comes up a lot in the TV series. But they're also navigating all of the politics. So that I just found very, very interesting. And we know from, the F-bomb scene that I mentioned earlier that is on page 54 of the book, that we know from there that doesn't just love John, she's still in love with him. I don't think you ever really fall out of love with someone. When you're in love with them, that's it. But then we also have the whole thing about John says a lot in that scene with all the F-bombs. So I thought that was just really kind of interesting and different than the book. Now, had the book ended the same way that limited TV series ended, then I would look at the comment that Vladimir, when he said, I would like to meet you here once a week, I would look at that comment as being a way to open the door to an open door romance and quite possibly an open marriage between Vladimir and Cynthia. I'm a little bit sad that the book and the TV series ended differently, because had they ended that way, in the same way as the TV series, then I would expect to have a sequel to the book Vladimir, even if it was just like a novella, like 110, 130 pages. I would spend money on that for sure. I mean, I buy books all the time. At the same time, I would also expect to have season 2 of Vladimir, even if it was like, say, 4 episodes of 30 minutes each. I would watch that, but it ended differently, so we don't get that. So I'm a little bit sad, but then I'm glad that I had the other opportunity of reading the book the way that I read it, because I can see the range of Julia May Jonas, which now brings me to the point of Julia May Jonas is supposed to have another book coming out. It's called Diana. And sorry, the lighting is just all of a sudden, it's just all over the place. So I don't know what happened to that book. I have a few theories. And so my one theory for that is sometimes what publishers do is they think like, okay, so you know what? There are a lot of books in the same kind of theme coming out, the same genre, and we don't want our book to get lost in the shuffle, so we'll just hold off for one more year. And they're going to hold off for a year because they want it to be a summer read, because different books come out for different parts of the year, right? So maybe that's it. Maybe that's why Diana is not out right now and coming out in spring of 2027. Maybe, second theory, is maybe they're tweaking it, because they found that they can make it more commercial and perhaps more cinematic. So we could have maybe a limited series for that book, because it is based on 2 actresses. Third and final theory is maybe they're tweaking that book because they want to make it more commercial and more cinematic, to make it more adaptable for a TV series that would be more than a limited TV series, a series that would have, let's say, 2 or possibly 3 seasons to it. So I'm actually kind of hoping for that. I'm very excited about the book Diana. Of course, I'm going to read it when it comes out. I've started investigating it. And so I'm really excited about everything. So I hope that you watch the TV series Vladimir, because it was created for TV and executive produced by Julia May Jonas. And yes, her debut novel Vladimir was the source material. Executive producers also was Rachel Weisz, was one of them, and then Sharon Horgan, who I absolutely love from Bad Sisters. I have to, look into some more work from her. And so thank you for watching Anna's Take with the twist to the end. I'm going to leave a link for those other 2 videos that I mentioned earlier. So the one that is called, will the book Vladimir by Julia May Jonas be Netflix's next huge TV series? And then, of course, the other video titled Why Are Older TV Shows Making a Comeback? And then I'll leave a link for the description box below for the book. So thanks again for watching Anna's Take with the twist to the end. I know, I really appreciate that. If you like today's video, please like the video. If you have a comment, I would love to hear from you, so please leave a comment. And of course, you can always subscribe. Thanks again for watching Anna's Take with the twist, and that's a wrap.